I've got a new layout. And if you guys stick around for just a few more minutes, I'm going to give you the proper introduction to what you see behind me here. Hi friends, my name's Steven and this is my channel Signal Up Productions, where I make videos all about trains. In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you up close kind of what I've been working on back here, how I've been doing it, and then give you some details on the track plan, the operating scheme, and what I intend to do with that, as far as some construction details and some of the prototype background for you. But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Then click that bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new video. Let's take a closer look. This is the Union Pacific St. Marshall Subdivision, a freelance representation of a UP main line somewhere in the Midwest. Now I'll say up front, this is not a dream layout of mine. Everybody's got kind of their dream layout, what they really want, and you know, if they won the lottery or something like that. This is not it for me. This is a placeholder until I get, you know, that opportunity to build that dream layout someday. But in the meantime, I need somewhere of my own to have a layout to run and on. You guys are familiar with most of my videos taking place in my friend Lee's layout up there, the UPS at Joint Line, and I'm still going to make plenty of videos there. But it was time for me to have somewhere where I could just run downstairs to the basement or, you know, some location and have a layout where I could test run some engines, more than just a 3-foot piece of test track or my diorama. So I had to find some place in the house. The only place available was down here in the dungeon, the basement, which isn't ideal. So I'm just saying that up front. What you're going to see here is not probably, you know, maybe you've got a better situation and your layout is better than mine and I'm happy for you. But in this case, something was better than nothing. So what I did is I found a corner of my basement that I could clear out of some of the clutter that I had stacked up over here, and I measured that to see exactly what the maximum amount of space that I could have to work with was, and after a few evenings of sketching out some different designs to decide whether or not the absolute minimum that would make me happy, whether or not it could fit in that space, and I came up with this track plan. Now I've built dozens of layouts, modules, and dioramas over the years, so I have a pretty good idea of what I like and, more importantly, what I don't like. So when I sat down and started track planning, the elements that I enjoy building and running on are a simple oval main line, something that's just a single track running through some narrow benchwork scenery, maybe a couple of spurs, a small yard, an intermodal space because I like intermodal trains, and lo and behold, that's what I ended up with. If you see here at the track plan, we can easily see that that's basically what is going on here. It's a simple oval, a couple of a couple of spurs. There's also a single stub end staging track to represent the rest of the world. Now I drew this plan using a software called AnyRail. I'll leave a link to their website in the description down below. Using this software allowed me to accurately plan out and try out several different track designs to see what would for certain fit in the space that I had and how much room it would leave me for different buildings and scenery elements that I knew that I would want to incorporate into this design. Now you've probably heard the track planning technique called having a list of givens and druthers. I believe it was first coined or used by John Armstrong in some of his track design books. I have a different way of listing those items and those elements out. I have a phrase that I tell my railroad friends when they're designing a track plan to consider their wants tos and their gots tos. Now the wants tos are the things that you'd like to have on your layout, but you could live without. The gots tos, well, that is like the go, no-go of track design. If you don't have those elements at the absolute minimum, that your layout just won't bring you any kind of joy or satisfaction. You'll ultimately end up getting more frustrated with it in the long term than if you just wouldn't have built a layout at all. So what I did is I started sketching out some basic track plans for the space that I had, and then started putting in the GOTS2 elements to see at the minimum if those would fit on the space that I had, and which they did. For me, the minimum was at least one staging track so I could represent the rest of the world, a 3-track yard so I could sort an inbound train into the different local blocks, a turntable facility for turning locomotives, an engine service facility for the modern diesels to get some fuel and some sand, a runaround track in the yard to allow the yard switcher to position the local power on the proper end of the train as it needs to depart, and also a unit train destination. That choice was between either a coal mine, because I really like unit coal trains, or an intermodal facility, as I also really like intermodal trains. So I decided to go ultimately with the intermodal because I have so many semi-trailer models that I really wanted to incorporate in the layout, and the intermodal facility will allow me to do that. Now when it comes to layout design, in many cases less is more. However, if you know for sure that having 5 trains run on 5 different loops around a small little space, going through great big mountains, crossing over one another, and you just want to see trains running like that, that's perfectly okay. However, me, I knew that that wasn't going to satisfy me, so I went the more simplest route with just a single track main line. That would just let me have one train looping while I do some yard switching. Because the space I had to work with, this wasn't going to be a layout that I would have, 10 friends come over and have this huge operating session on. I really just built this for just me to kind of show off some different videos on my YouTube channel for you guys. Maybe operate with 1 or 2 friends down here in the basement. But there's just simply not enough room for layout and guest, so I had to pick one or the other, and I chose the layout. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the camera in over here, and we're just going to walk around to the different areas of the layout, and also I'm going to show you kind of underneath what I've done so far, and talk about what I've done so far, and also why I've done that, because of the future plan of what is to come in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. So let's come in here and take a look. All right, so we're going to start with just following the track around so you guys can see the actual track, how it ended up, and then how it is on the plan there, and you should be able to know where you're looking at when you look at the track plan. So here we've got our northbound train is 4908, so manifest train, just kind of making a loop around the layout. And then the UP 2505, that's on the technically the staging track, but it's basically on stage staging. So it'll be scenic. It'll be actually part of the on-stage layout, so it'll be visible the entire time. There's not going to be any kind of a view block. And that track is going to represent essentially a junction to another subdivision, and this train would be tied down. The crew went off duty, waiting for a relief crew to come on duty, bring it onto the St. Marshall subdivision, and get it over to St. Marshall Yard, where it'll be broke up and blocked into the different locals or an outbound train. So we've got that for staging. That's just basically manifest in and out. Now one operational element that I can include in that is when this train departs and heads to the yard, then that makes this track empty. And since I'm mainly operating this layout by myself, let me turn the camera about this way here. Since I'm mainly operating the layout by myself, then during that time I could put the one of the Amtrak trains or something like that on that track, and then bring it out and have it looping while I'm running the yard switcher, breaking down that train. So I could do that. So it can represent more than just the single freight train staging track. It can represent, staging track for other trains that I can stage on the layout during an operating session. And I can even do that if I had friends over. They can be in here running the trains, one person with a yard switcher, and then I can set the Amtrak on the staging track back there. Then the dispatcher can line up a route, have them come out onto the main line, make their circles, and then when the locals are ready to go do their switching work, then the Amtrak can go get put away, so on and so forth. So that'll work. I've already done that. I've already tried out that, so I know that works. It's not exactly convenient, I'll admit, to put trains on and then take them off and put them on and take them off and everything. I tried to limit how much I'm handling my trains, but at least the Amtrak equipment is not rivet counter level detail. So we, you know, there's not a whole lot of risk of damaging that. So let's see. Let's go back this way a little bit here. So what we have here is we've got the spur to, this is going to be Brenntag Pacific. Brenntag is a real company in real life. There are several different terminals all over the Midwest. And so this is just a representation because I'm not modeling anything specific or 100% accurate. But Brenntag basically gets in tank cars of different grades of chemicals, and then they blend those chemicals in a blending facility that's just usually a small prefab or metal type building. And then once they blend those chemicals to different customer specifications, they can actually bottle those. Some facilities are set up for bottling, but a lot of times they will fill those IBCs, the big industrial pallet size totes, for then shipment to area customers that use those chemical blends in their manufacturing process. So this will be loaded tank cars coming in. It'll be a variety of different types of chemicals coming in. It won't always be the same thing. Sometimes it'll be, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's several different types of chemicals that they use. So, you know, I've got some crude oil tank cars, and obviously that probably wouldn't work for Brenntag Pacific if I were modeling it exactly. But in my particular case, I've got these tank cars and I really like them, so they're probably going to go there anyways, even though it may not be 100% accurate. We have a saying let me turn it this way. We have a saying that in model railroading, it's all make-believe and the points don't matter. So this is all just make-believe, and I can just do whatever I want. You know why? Because it's my layout. So moving north, we've got the yard switch. So this goes into the yard. This starts the yard lead. Yard lead, well, you know, clearance point's about here, and I'll explain in a minute how long the yard lead is, but that's about where that is. Then, so the main track, and then that'll be our staging there. As we come around here, this will be the town of St. Marshall. There will be a highway right here, Main Street, if you will. I've got a Walthers Cornerstone Dairy Queen kit that'll go here. I've got a fire station that'll go there. I've got the new, they call it Bargain Depot, but by golly, it looks a lot like a Dollar General. So the Dollar General is going to go there. There'll be an intersection right there with a stoplight. Then the big feature that I'll include on the layout is some working crossing gates here for the crossing. I'll get into the wiring shortly, but it's already set up. The detection's already set up for crossing gates. As we come around here, I've got the base radio scanner in the background so that I can listen to the real railroads communicate in my area. I enjoy scanner listening, so got that back there. We've got our train coming around here. So this spur back here where the box car and the depressed center flat car is, that's the interchange track. So that's going to represent an interchange to a short line, and the short line has a couple of customers that they serve, one of which is a car repair facility. So they really could get any kind of empty car in for repair. For instance, maybe the depressed center flat car needs repaired. They also have a plastic pellets customer, so there will occasionally be some plastic pellet hoppers that come in there. Things like that. So the interchange is kind of a catch-all. It can really get anything. It's got space for 4 cars. I don't know how often it'll actually get 4 cars because the operating system or the switch list system that I'll be using, it'll sometimes get 4, sometimes get 1. It'll just be random, just like the real railroad is. Now as we move along here, we're going to be at the south end of St. Marshall Yard. And we can see our yard lead comes into the ladder. We've got the ladder comes right down here for the different yard tracks. So we have our engine facility here. There's going to be fuel pad for fuel service and sand for these engines right here. This track here is going to be a caboose track, cab track. Of course, I model modern railroading, so those will actually be shoving platforms. As you can see on the tail end of our 4908 that's coming around here, the little Mopac Shorty caboose is bringing up the rear because sometimes that train has to make the reverse move into the yard or something like that. But if you notice on the back of that caboose, is the EOT that's flashing, because it's not marking the end of the train, the caboose itself. The EOT is marking the end of the train. The caboose is just there for crew protection. So we come around here. Originally, I was going to make this a 4-track yard. There would have been the track here that, as you can see, that goes back into the main line down there where the locomotive is now. Essentially, that would be my receiving forwarding yard, or forwarding track. Train would come in there, and then the yard switcher would have had 2 tracks to work with, and then there would have been the lead to the turntable. However, I decided to go ahead and squeeze in a 3rd track, as I did some initial planning. Once I got the benchwork actually built, then I came in here with actually putting the flex track down and actually putting the cars on the flex track, and realized I'm really going to need that extra track. So I did that, and what it ended up meaning is that, because I originally wanted the engine service facility here further down here, also the track there, I wanted more space between the last track and the end of the fascia. But when I got it all in here, I decided, you know what, I mean, 3 inches is plenty. I originally was going to be 5, so 3 inches is plenty. There's still going to be, you know, room for some grass and whatnot, and hopefully no elbows will be bumping my highly detailed locomotives. If we come down here, we have the switch into the intermodal facility. I'll explain that in just a few minutes, but you'll want to stick around and hear the explanation of that. Some of you guys might think that's pretty cool, what I'm going to plan on doing there. In the side of the yard between track 2 and track 3, we have a crossover here, left-hand crossover, and that'll allow whichever local has to depart out southbound or northbound to get their power on the right side of the train. Then they can shove down the ladder, clear of that first switch onto the forwarding track, and then shoot north out onto the main line when the dispatcher clears them out. So, and the yard switcher can run around and get the shoving platform on the right end of the train and whatever else they have to do. As we come around here, you can see I haven't got the track done yet, because I'm waiting to have time to build the turntable bridge and get that operational. So this is the Walthers 90-foot turntable kit. See, I don't have it out right now. It's over there on the other part of my workbench. But anyways, whenever I get the bridge done and tested, then I'll be able to line up the track and get that connected in, and I'll have three tracks on the end of the turntable, one of which will be lined up for the inbound track, the track that feeds the turntable there. That way you can shoot straight on over there without having to adjust it. In modern times, these kind of turntables are typically used for if a single engine comes in, or say, you know, a consist comes in and the lead locomotive has a failure en route. Maybe the radio doesn't work, or the horn fails, or something like that, and the second engine in the consist is long head forward. They have to have some way to turn that power so that it can be sent out on an outbound train with the proper orientation. So that's why I included a turntable in a modern layout. There won't be any kind of actual round house over these tracks. It'll just be the tracks. There will probably be some maintenance items over there, some, you know, I don't know, maybe wheel sets, replacement wheel sets or stuff for locomotives, or brake shoes, just whatever engine repair guys would maybe need to keep some locomotives running. Now the turntable kit that Walthers makes doesn't have a built-in reverser unit. I know that the one that's got the DCC controller is set up to where, you know, the orientation of the bridge you know, sets up the polarity correctly, but the turntable kit that Walthers makes doesn't have that option, so the rails just stay whatever polarity the wires are feeding them, regardless of their position. So then eventually you end up with you know, the polarity doesn't match up. So I'll be using the Tan Valley dual frog juicer set up as an auto reverser. That way I can run my engines on and off without having to use any kind of toggle switch to change the direction. Now, one thing I plan on doing is the turntable bridge will be operated with this motorizing kit. And that motorizing kit just runs on regular 12 volt, no problem. But the way I plan on powering that is I'm going to actually use a just a cheap spare DCC mobile decoder for a locomotive and wire the track power directly into the track power and then the motor output to the actual motor output. So to operate the turntable, you'll just dial up address 1. I'll probably set it to DCC address 1 on the throttle, and the direction will allow you to you know, rotate the bridge one way or change the direction, rotate the bridge the other way, and then you'll have to just manually run the bridge up to where it lines up with the rails. Which I've done that before on another friend's layout, and it wasn't really that hard to do. You know, so as far as like indexing, for no more that this is going to get used, it should be fine. So here on this end of the layout, you'll see on the track plan earlier, maybe I'll go ahead and put the track plan back up now on the screen there. You can see we've got a area where there is a grain co-op. So here we've got the grain elevator where it's going to be, and it's got room for 4 cars. It'll have 3 covered hoppers for grain loading, and occasionally, not very often, but occasionally the grain co-op is going to get some liquid fertilizer, and that'll come in on tanks that'll get transloaded onto waiting farmer trucks and stuff to go out and spread on their fields. So that'll just be seasonal. That won't happen every operating session. So there'll just be a grain co-op here. There'll be some scenery that will take up some of that. And then over there, that whole wide open space will be nothing but semi-trailers, the intermodal stub end track there, more semi-trailers over there. I probably will put a building over there actually, where there's the inbound, outbound truck lanes for where they check the seals on the trailers and stuff like that. There's usually a building that those trucks come in and out of at most of the intermodal facilities that I've researched. So I'll include that building over there probably. And I've got a MyJack crane for loading and unloading containers onto the train. So that's pretty cool. So we come over here. This is the area known as Green River Junction. Here we have actually what is going to be the Green River, and we've got the Walthers bridge kit that I finished last night. I've recorded the process of building that, and I'm going to make that into a video here as soon as I can. I'm kind of behind on videos, so we'll see. But the piers, the steel piers that came with the kit were not tall enough, so I actually had to measure and then 3D print my own. So that'll be included in the video as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Now Green River is not green as in the color green, as you can see there in the way it's printed on the track plan. Green River is named after a fellow named Mr. Green, who founded the area and found the river and whatever. So it's named after him, not the color. So the river itself will probably be, you know, darker brown color maybe. I haven't really decided yet. Under the bridge there will be a low pass dirt road that'll come up, and it'll actually kind of zigzag up the hill to this area here where there will be a church, a little farmhouse out there in the middle, maybe some clothes on the clothesline drying, some cows or whatever the people might have out, livestock in their backyard. Just a very serene little area, and as you can see the fascia's already on there, so it'll be a very rolly hill kind of area, some rolling scenery. You come over here, this will be just basically nothing but scenery. Rolling hills. I might have like an old dilapidated barn. If you see there on the track plan, I intend to put some high tension, high transformer lines that'll cross there, just to have some power lines on there. And that brings us back to where we originally started our tour. So that's the top of the layout. So I think what we're going to do now is just discuss the construction so far, how I've got to where we're at now. Alright, so I built the layout in 4 different sections. We have a section that's that end, and then the yard section, which is a total of 9 feet end to end. Then this section here, and then the section on the other side with the river scene, that's also 9 feet. So these are 18-inch wide by 9 feet long. This side and this side, both 18 inches wide, 9 feet long. The 2 end sections are 3 feet wide by 5.5 feet wide, I guess long, sorry. And essentially that contains the entire arc of the curve. So the main track curve is 28 inches, actually all of the curve, including The staging track there and also the intermodal track are all 28-inch radius curves. The only exception is this is a Walthers curve switch, and they only made one that was a 28 with a 24-inch radius inside. So I had to compromise there. I didn't really like the idea of going down to 24 inches, but I really didn't feel like handling a custom curve switch. So that's just a compromise I had to make. So we got a 24-inch radius just right there for that little segment. Then it goes to 25-inch radius for the rest of the yard lead. That's all 25-inch radius comes up there. Everything else is 28 inches. The fascia is made from 1/8 inch thick masonite. I went ahead and painted it black just while I was out in the workshop. I built all of the benchwork out in the workshop, and then I brought it in here in pieces and assembled it together. So if we go underneath here, we can see the electronics that run everything here. I'm using Digitrax. This is a DCS 210 Plus. I got it as part of my Evolution set. I bought the wireless set, so it's got the UR93 right here. As you can see there, I've also got a proto-throttle bridge, so that that'll help enhance operations by using the proto-throttle. It goes into the LNWI, which then goes into LocoNet, which then controls the trains. We've got our 12-volt DC power supply right here. It's going to feed the purple yellow bus, which also has an additional blue bus. We can see right there, so it's purple, yellow, blue. And what that'll allow me to do is have two separate legs of the circuit with the toggle switch here. Anything that needs to be always on power, such as my detection boards, the signal boards, any kind of electronics that always need power, that'll be yellow purple. But then yellow blue kind of like lunar, kind of like nighttime, that'll be anything that needs to come on or off when I do the nighttime run session. Street lights, building lights, things of that nature. And so that'll allow me to turn that toggle switch on and off to power those lights separately. For circuit breakers, I'm using the Tam Valley circuit breakers. I've got 4 of them. So I'm running the DCS 210 at the full 8 amps. I've got that going in the 8 amp spot there. And it's being fed by a, what do they call that? I ordered it on Amazon. It's an industrial power supply made by Meanwell, I think. Pretty sure. I'll verify that, and I'll make sure I leave that in the description. But it's a Meanwell power supply. It's 15 volts DC. It has an adjustment screw on it, so if I wanted to adjust that a little bit, I could, but 15 volts is fine. And it's 10 amps, so the system runs 8 amps, so I mean there's plenty of additional current there, so it shouldn't have to be overloaded too much. So the 8 amp system is feeding 4 different power districts. Each power district is set to 2 amp trip current, so that should be more than enough for the power districts that I have. I have distribution blocks to make my wiring as clean as possible, and also if I ever need to troubleshoot anything, it's a lot easier to just unscrew those terminals and pull them out one leg at a time and figure out where the problem lies. My wiring from the command station and to the main bus is all 14 gauge stranded. I'm using red and white for my bus wires. My orientation is the white goes to the rail closest to the wall, so white wall, that's how I remember that. And then the inside is red, except for the detection sections for through the BDL 168, those are black instead of red. So white and black or white and red. The 4 blocks, we've got a main A, and then a main that's B and C. I don't know if you guys can probably see that on there. I wrote on there, so we've got A, B, and C. That feeds the B and C and A section zones of my BDL 168. Trying to keep things logical. The other detection, or not detection section, the other power district, excuse me, is for just the engine terminal facility, from the engine terminal down to the 3 tracks there in the turntable. So that's the 3rd power district, and then the 4th power district is just the yard. So I guess you guys have probably already figured out, since I've got the Digitrax SC8C signal decoder and the Digitrax BDL 168 block detection board. Yes, I do plan on having signals. If you noticed from my other previous videos, I've done plenty of signal installations on other people's layouts, so it was a no-brainer to go ahead and put signals on my layout. I've already got those signals. I'm going to use a mix of the Atlas / BLMA the old signals there, the BLMA tooling signals. And then I've got some of the Details West signals, the GRS type signals. I also have some of those We Honest cheap Chinese signals from eBay I'll use. I've had good experience with those on my friend's layout, so they should be fine here. And I've got some other signal parts that I'm going to scratch build a few custom signals that I needed a specific indication for one of the intermediates. I'm going to have to scratch build that, but that's no problem either. Let's see. Oh, for the benchwork, I'm using 5/8 inch thick plywood, and I'm using sanded plywood, so it was a little bit better grade. And I ripped it to slightly bigger than 1x4 boards. I actually think I ripped it at just under 4 inches wide. And I created my frame out of plywood to make it a little bit lighter, and also to ensure that I had much straighter boards than just regular dimensional 1x4s that are typically available at your big box retail stores. So I ripped all that plywood. I think I ended up using 3 sheets of plywood, and I just spent a whole day just ripping it down. And then I used nail and glue, which I've got all of this videoed. I'm going to have a whole video series on how I'm building this layout step by step, so be sure and stay tuned for that. But I nailed everything and glued everything with wood glue. I know a lot of guys like to use screws. A lot of guys use drywall screws, especially. That seems to be really popular, but you can't really use screws on plywood like that because it'll just split it. The glue is definitely very strong, and the nails, the finishing nails that I used, help hold it together while the glue set up, and it's been very strong. I've stood on this layout without any issues. So the legs are just 2x2 legs, and they are just built into little pockets there. And let's see, oh, right here. You can see right here one of the legs. So they've got just bolts with T-nuts on the legs there to keep the legs in the sockets. To connect the sections together, I've got these large 5/8 inch diameter bolts with the nuts and washers. So I've got that on all 4 joints. You can see for the wiring, I didn't put plugs in here because I don't intend to move this layout. It is designed to move in the event that I need to move it. And in such, the wiring I'll have labels on the wiring. So it'll just be a matter of unscrewing them from the screw terminals, separating the sections, moving them out of the way, and when it comes time to reassemble, bolts back in, and then just spend the time putting the wires back in the terminal strips there. Now the wiring does kind of look like a mess, but that's because I'm still working on it. When it's all done, I've got clips, and it'll all be neatly tucked up in under the layout, so it's not all droopy down. I've got labels. Labels are going to be attached to each wire periodically throughout the whole layout, so that'll help keep things easy to understand when it comes time to troubleshoot anything. Thankfully, I haven't had very many issues, and any issues I have had, I was able to rectify them pretty quickly, and the wiring is just about done, so if I haven't had any issues yet, I should be good. Let's see, what else? Oh, for the switches, I've got 3 powered switches that are using tortoise machines, but here I've got one of these Blue Point, so I'm actually going to be, here's a whole box of Blue Point switch motors here. All of my hand throw switches are going to use the Blue Point, and I've got material here, some rod that I'll make a actuating lever so that I can operate those from the fascia, because I plan on including a lot of detail into this layout. So if I can minimize the amount of reaching in to the layout to re-rail cars, throw switches, uncouple cars, that sort of thing, I'd like to minimize that as much as possible. So I'll be using the Blue Point on all the hand throw switches, and then I've got 3 let's go over here and look here. Got 3 switches which use the tortoise machines. Right there, you can see there's one, and there's the other one over there. I'm using the Aculite boards that allow you to unplug those from the tortoise machine, so that if I have to do any kind of like maintenance to the motor, or for heaven forbid have to actually replace the motor, that's just a simple matter of pulling that plug off and unscrewing the tortoise and putting the new one in. So the 3 switches that are powered, there's 2 control points. We've got this control point here. That'll be an OS section protected by blocks, and then the dispatcher will be able to use the computer system, the CAD, to route trains through the control point from one section of the layout to the other. And if we come over here, then we have Green River Junction. That'll be the other control point there. So 2 control points that the dispatcher will use to route trains around the layout. Then there's several blocks. If we go down here, I have insulators already cut for an island circuit on the yard lead. So there won't be an approach circuit for the road crossing, just an island circuit. So as the yard switcher comes up, once they're in the circuit, then it'll activate the road crossing. So the yard switcher is going to have to remember to approach the highway slowly to give the crossing lights a chance to activate. And then as far as the main line is concerned, it does have an approach circuit built in, plus the island, plus then the other approach circuit for the other direction. And then I'll get programmed through JMRI logic to activate my crossing flashers and then the gate motor. Then I've got more insulators periodically along the main line for where the intermediate signals will go. So then finally, and then I'll leave it with this, we've got this switch right here, which is powered with a tortoise, but it's not a control point, and it's not controlled by the dispatcher. So what I decided was I wanted to have a representation of a little bit of everything when it comes to modern railroading, especially when it comes to interacting with a signal system. And so what I decided to do with that switch is it's going to be an electric unlock switch with time protection on it. And whenever the intermodal train is ready to come out, they'll have to get permission from the dispatcher to open up and come out onto the main line. Once they have that permission, they'll actually operate the controls here. We've got a toggle switch and a push button, and I've also got an indicator light, but I haven't put it on here yet. There will be an indicator light which will normally be dark, and when you unlock the switch, then that light's going to start flashing while the electric unlock circuit is running time. Whenever the time runs out, which the signal department will decide how long of a timer that needs to be. The prototype is anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes long. I think the crews would probably hang me if I made them wait that long. So it'll probably be closer to like 30 seconds. That'll indicator light will flash, and then when the time runs out and the switch is ready to be hand thrown, it'll go into a steady burn and let you know that it's ready to throw. Then you'll use the push button to line the switch for the main. You can come out, you can line the switch back. You can do that all day long, throw the switch back and forth as long as that light is solid. But as soon as you lock the switch up again, then that light goes out, and then that switch button's not going to do a darn thing. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Those are operational aspects of model railroading that I really enjoy. So I was looking forward to incorporating things like that on the layout. Well, that's it. Union Pacific St. Marshall Subdivision. I'm going to create a playlist on my YouTube channel, which is going to let you just really follow along all the different things that I'm doing on the layout. I'll probably do periodic layout update videos. They won't be as polished as like some of my other videos. I'll probably just like run the camera down here and like, hey guys, here's what I did this week or whatever. I do come down here, once or twice a week and just kind of piddle, put some more feeders in, or install more of those Blue Point turnout controllers or whatever. So I look forward to advancing this layout further. I'm looking forward to getting the scenery done, and I'm looking forward to having a more formal operating session. I haven't completely decided yet whether or not I'm going to use JMRI operations to manage the car movement, or if I'm going to use car card and waybills. Leaning towards car card and waybills, but tell you what, leave me a suggestion down in the comments section. Let me know what you think I should do. Maybe there's another system out there that I'm not even familiar with. I'd love to know about it. I'll consider it. And anything else, be sure and leave a comment down there. Ask questions. I'm happy to let you guys know. So thanks for this. Sorry it was a long video, but I wanted to go through kind of in detail what's going on here. And moving forward, a lot of my videos will probably take place down here. Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends, and see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.